Do you know what, Dill? The other night, right, I watched the Manosphere. There was so much talk about it, so much, on social media I was seeing it. So I thought, let me just watch it. And it really focused on that sort of toxic masculinity. And I just thought, what are your thoughts on, like, toxic masculinity? I don't know whether you've seen it or not, but
Yeah, I've not fully watched. I've watched some of the clips on social media, but what, like you said, the word toxic masculinity, and what really offends me about that word is that I feel like it's used as a weapon against men at the moment. It's like if a man acts in a certain way, you throw that word out and say that's toxic. That's toxic. Like I think them two words in general are two separate words. There's masculinity, which can be in a good way if you use it in the right way. So for me, a masculine man is somebody who cares, somebody who's interested, somebody who doesn't go with their ego, somebody who feels like they can support people and provide and listen and have a open arms and be willing to take on responsibilities. And that's not just a responsibility in household or paying bills or anything. That's responsibilities in allowing people around you to grow bigger, to grow better, to grow stronger, to be able to allow your masculine traits to bring people up. And that looks like masculinity to me. Like that's when I look around masculine men that I know or men that I know, that's what they're like. But when you look at the word toxic and you add toxic in, that's a different sector of it. That's a different word, and that's somebody who doesn't take accountability. Somebody's always looking to blame somebody else. Somebody is always going with their ego first and responding with "I am better." Somebody who puts people down. Somebody who's not prepared to listen and not prepared to learn. And that's what toxic is. And when you put them two words together, toxic masculinity, you've got something that I see is really positive and something that's really negative. And you're putting them two words together to connect, to blame and point fingers at men. And that's where I think the issues arising now with we're far too happy to throw the word, oh, he's just toxic. We're far too happy to throw the word, oh, he's just being toxic. It's toxic masculinity. And yes, some people in the Louis Theroux documentary, they were toxic and they was also misogynistic. So the two things that they were, and they're the people that are target, but there's thousands and thousands, and I know hundreds of men and many men that are not that type of person. And I think when we're targeting and we're trying to look at men using these words consistently, we're having an impact on other men. We're having these words being thrown at so many different men that aren't toxic, but they're masculine.
no, that makes total sense. I mean, you can get females that are toxic. I see what you're saying in that sense that they are two separate things. Toxic people are just toxic people, regardless of gender. I guess is what you're trying to say.
If you're toxic, you're toxic. If you're masculine, you're masculine. And they're two separate things. I just think it's another phrase used to throw at men where we bring them down again. And this is why we have rates of suicide so high, rates of homelessness in men so high, rates of self-harm in men so high, rates of men going to prison so high. And this is another addition that we do when we're throwing in additional words to degrade men or to throw a word at a man to put them down.
Yeah, I mean, that was going to be one of my other questions, actually, that I was going to ask you. Because I know that you have a huge passion for men's like mental health, and the biggest cause of death for men under 50 is death by suicide. And I just because you're a man and you have this passion, what do you think has led to, and this has been this way for quite a while now, hasn't it? It's not just like this year, it's been this way for a good number of years now, which is so sad. What do you think's lending to that? And I know you alluded to it slightly there. And what do you think men can do to ensure that they're keeping on top of their mental health? Because I think for a lot of men, it's not a high up on their list yet. We're seeing, the death by suicide rate so high.
Yeah, great question. For me, when we are sort of talking and asking that question regarding what can we do for men, like when we look at the rates, you were saying about suicide being so high for men. Let's take it back to war times we had men coming back from war and coming back with all the trauma that they've suffered, with all the things that they've witnessed, with all the things that they've seen, coming back and having to deal with trauma from all of them generations ago. And continuously, we've also used that word of man up. What are you, a man or a mouse? What are you, a man or a girl? What are you, a boy or a girl? I think we've used phrases like this to our children. Like, grow up, be a man, be a boy, man up. These phrases used consistently from a young age. So young boys are growing up thinking that they need to act a certain way. Whereas for me, I think what we need to do to see the change and see impact is we've got to allow spaces for men. We've got to allow spaces for men to feel open, to be able to talk, to be able to be around other positive role models. Is it going to be an easy journey to fix? No, it's not. But I think we have got to show more positive men being masculine, doing things as we've just spoke about when we talk about masculinity, and also it's a journey where we try taking away the blame. Like we try taking away the blame and having spaces for men to talk, and not somewhere where they feel like they're being judged. Not somewhere where men feel like we are against them, and not feeling like there's so much pressure on their shoulders as well. And it does happen. Like we talk about children when men are in relationships, or they leave a relationship and they have a child and they cannot see their child anymore, or they are not allowed to see the child, or different situations happen. There's a lot going on in there, and I think a lot needs to change about how we support men overall, like how we can get easier entry, easy access into support services for men to talk. My belief for me and myself when I went to therapy, I think that was the biggest change for me at the age of 30. And being able to talk and understand why I do what I do. And I've seen a lot of trauma in my life. Again, when we talk about trauma, my mum passing away at birth, my auntie passing away who raised me when I was 16, my grandma passing away in my 20s. I've seen a lot of trauma in the way of loss and grief. And for me, it was the life that I lived was an egotistical life, because that's where I felt I had to be. I was an Indian boy. Everything was done for me. I didn't have to do anything. I didn't have the need to do anything. And I just thought that everything would be done for me for the rest of my life, and women will provide for me. And that's the way I started moving forward in life. Everything's always going to be, I don't have to do anything. I'm the king, I'm the man, because that's the way I was raised. But when I went to therapy and to understand the way I am, like I have a great group of friend circle that are women. I learned that because throughout my life, I've been raised by women and only women, and I got given everything I'd wanted to by women. So as I grew older, I learned that, women are always going to give me everything. Men are always going to hurt me. So I didn't have the trust in men, but trust in women. And just in general, with a lot of different things that I do in life, I think therapy is a key aspect of which help men just to understand what they do and how they move forward. And I think, there's a lot to do. I think more support groups for men, more opportunities for men to talk. We had the Wellbeing Warehouse that we ran at the gym, and it was a group of men sitting in a room just talking about life, how their week's been, checking in, just a belly check, coming in and just talking how their week's been, what things have been good. And one thing that I've been doing quite recently is like gratitudes, like simple things of gratitude. This is not just for men and women. Just say your gratitudes out loud every morning. What you're grateful for. What are 3 things that you're grateful for? And it can be as simple as somebody made me a cup of tea. Like we sort of miss out the positive things that happen every single day because we're so glued in all the negative or how we have to be a man. But just looking at the fact that actually somebody at work offered to make me a cup of tea, that's positive, and I'm grateful for that. The fact that I'm grateful for the sun shining today, the fact that I'm grateful for it raining yesterday, that all of these things are to be grateful for. And I think sometimes we get clouded, men and women, get clouded in judgment of what we have today and what we want. And I think it's the idea of just to look at men, supporting men and talking with each other. There's a lot of great groups going on at the moment. Also to look at how and what we're grateful for, them daily little things that we can do just to actually connect with what are the great things of life, because there are some beautiful things. And also to look at services, therapies, look at other professional where you can get professional help, because some people do need an outside support service, an outside help where they can talk and just understand who they are and why they are why they are that certain way. So there are them things. I think services also need to be doing more for men. Like when you go into the GP and being given antidepressants on a consistent basis, but then no support offered. It's like, why? What's coming with medication? Medication isn't always a fix. It does help for short term, but long term there's still something there. Addiction. So we've got men in treatment. Men, I think nationwide, I think it's so many more people, men are in treatment for drug and alcohol services. Let's lead with a trauma-informed base. Let's lead with understanding the person. Let's lead with why we're here. I think the more we do that around men, the more we get to understand lifestyle and the more we look at changing lifestyles. I also think, again, I've spoke about this a lot, especially when I look at drug treatment that we do, the work we do in drug treatment. Men are... I find men get married, have children, and feel like once they've had children, they've got married, they have to stop on life, though they give up on things that they enjoy in life. Where men generally do have and feel in a certain way, they get their rewards, they get their endorphins released when they're involved in sports, when they're winning, when they're achieving, when they're taking part in something, when they're going boxing, when they're going to the gym, when they're doing certain things. What happens is a lot of men will stop doing this and their sense of achievement starts to leave. Once that starts to leave, low moods, depression, anxiety, picking up drugs, picking up a drink, all of these things start to happen because that's what then takes them back to feeling great again or feeling good again. When they pick up addiction, and then they lead into that because that's the feeling they're chasing, that endorphin release that they're not getting when they're not doing these things.
That was going to be my next question, because I was going to say to you that we all know that the waiting list for mental health services is long, you know, and when someone reaches out for help, they often need support there and then, or at least, you know, not waiting for a year or 6 months. So what I was going to ask is, like, what can men do in that interim period between them reaching out for professional support and actually getting, you know, to that point of getting therapy? What can be done in that interim period? Because we lose so many people in that interim period because they're not getting the support and they kind of just, you know, fall off the wagon. Someone, you know, sadly take their lives, etc. So what can men do to help themselves, I guess, is what I'm saying, in that interim period? I think you mentioned a few, like, you know, gym, the gratitude. Is there anything else, you know, that, you know, you think would be beneficial for people to hear? Like, I can do this in the interim period while I'm waiting for support.
Sure, and I've said this a lot. There's a lot of men's club out there now. There's Andy's men's club that is doing some great stuff. There's the other Brotherhood Legion and the Sisterhood Legion that are doing some great stuff. I know I can't remember what it's called exactly, but Lee Jobber and are doing some great things with supporting men. But these are things that help and work. It's being able to open. Like the great thing is what you're saying is they've realised they need support. So that's where the first step is for that individual. They've realised they want support and they've spoke to somebody. They've made a referral. So they're 50% there.
That's the biggest step, right?
So the biggest step is there, and I think this is where the likes of the men's group are there. This is where looking at within yourself, like what did I enjoy? What do I like? What in my life before this did I used to get thrills from? What made me happy?
Yeah.
Was it going to the pub with my friends? Was it going to play football? Was it watching the football? Was it going to play rugby? Was it going to eat good food? Was it going to the gym? Like internally, we know where we have been happy, where we've seen where we have been happy. So look, dig deep. So let's dig deep. Can you add that into your life again? It's made you happy before. It's made you feel good before. So can we bring it back in now? How can we bring it? Who can we reach out to? Who can we reach out to go to the gym? Can we go on our own? Like, what can we do? And it's taking them opportunities of realizing what you need or what you want or what you like, and then trying to introduce that into your life. Whereas the other aspect of it is talking. It is, and find people that you can talk to if you have people that you can talk to. I say this quite easily because it comes off the tongue very easily. Because it's easy to say, talk to somebody, I'm here to help. But who's the right person? Are they going to listen? Are they going to criticize? Are you going to feel safe? There's a lot of questions when we ask about talking to people, but who can you go to? Who can you speak to that
And
will
I think
listen?
I love the fact that you've hit on that, because I think even I say it, talk, and I think it's because I find through my own journey, talking, has been the one thing that I didn't do that works. But I have trusted people that I can talk to. So it's not just as simple, actually. And I think that's a great point, as just talking.
Yeah.
You need to have that safe space or safe people.
Yeah.
That,
And that's what we say. So if you approach somebody and you say, I'm struggling, think life hard, and somebody says to you, and the response is, just man up. How's that going to feel? So it's about finding that right person. And it's easy to say, just talk to somebody. But it's finding the right, and it can be male, it can be female, it can be whoever it needs to be. It can be somebody you've just met on the train.
I think sometimes that's easier, isn't it? Sometimes for some people, talking to people that actually don't know them is far easier than people who do know them, because there is no preconceived knowledge or ideas, etc.
That's why a therapist works great.
Yeah.
You don't know them. They don't know anything about you. But the actual fact of even if you're not able to talk, you can write it. You can say it in a video. It's saying it out loud. And we have the great access of phones. And just to press record. Just to press record and talk it out loud. This is how I'm feeling. Or like sending a voice note to somebody that you can find. And so we have your phone, which is a great tool that you might speak to somebody on social media that you've trusted. You might speak to somebody on WhatsApp you trust in. You might speak to somebody around the whole world that you've built trust in. They're listening. They care about you. Like, you've got the opportunities of a phone, which is a great tool that you have in front of you, which you can use to either record and just hear your voice and get the words out and record it on a voice note. You've got the way you can send it in a WhatsApp message or an Instagram message, or you've got the idea of writing it down on a piece of paper. Like, the idea of it is getting them thoughts out of your head.
I think even Word, Microsoft Word has that dictate app thing now, where you can literally just talk your words out and it's going to write it out for you. So I think that's really, really good advice. Just getting it from here out, so it's not like a jumbled up mess.
And that's the main thing, when it's in there, when it's internally in your head. What you're doing is you're creating stories, and I've been there myself. I still go to them places. Like, I'll think something's going on, and all of a sudden I've created another story from another story which isn't even true.
I can resonate.
And I've created another story that's another story that's another story, and nothing is true. I've just made that up because my thoughts in my head are just turning around, and one thought leads to another. And these things, sometimes once you say it out loud, that's when you can actually process what your thoughts are, rather than allow the process your thoughts to just completely be turning in your head and twisting and telling you a million different things that are not factual, that you've just completely made up. And actually saying it out loud, writing it down, you then get the opportunity to sort out, actually, that doesn't make a lot of sense. Why am I thinking like that? Or, maybe if I look at it in a different angle, maybe if I look at it like this, you can then start to think of your thoughts and process them a little differently.
Absolutely, yeah. Reflecting on your own thoughts, because I think that's a skill that I've learned through the latter part of my life. That your thoughts aren't always real, and sometimes you do have to challenge your own thinking in order to ascertain.
We talk about your voice notes. We talk about your voice notes. I've had years of your voice notes, and sometimes I try breaking it down. I just really simplify it. Is it really that deep? Is it really? What about this? What about that? And we sort of look at them, and once I ask the questions, you start to process it differently, and you start to think of it in a different. You're answering it for yourself. I'm not even doing any answering. I'm just asking you a question. What do you mean by that? And once I ask, what do you mean by that? Oh, actually, don't worry about it. It's fine. I've got it now. So yeah.
I think it's just become such an overwhelming mess that because you are one of the safe spaces, obviously, for myself, and it just comes out as like diarrhea almost. No, because I'm literally speaking it as I'm thinking it, and yeah, you kind of just dissecting that or not compartment. It's probably wrong, but organizing and feeding that back in a structured way enables me to think about it or reflect on it in a structured manner.
Yeah.
Whereas when I'm first coming out with it, there's no structure at all. It's just like, ugh.
Sure. Yeah, and we were saying like when we were just come back from America with two other friends, men, and where we was there, we was talking, and when we was talking, we was in the car for 28 hours, and three men talking for 24 hours for a long period. It's just all of us got our own thoughts out, spoke differently, and spoke in different mindsets. So it was great to just have that time and actually see your thoughts differently and realize what other people are the same as you.
Yeah.
They're like three of us, completely different people, all good friends, but we're so different, but we have the same thoughts and same feelings.
Well, that sounds great. I think, yeah. And I think some of the things that you said will be helpful for women too.
Yeah, for sure.
It's not just sort of.
No,
Yeah.
and I'm not. I'm talking in
Oh,
men
no,
because the question is men, but
Yeah.
I'm men and women. These things that we talk about they can support all.
No, absolutely. I think because those self-help things is where there's not a lot of knowledge.
Yeah.
We say go to services, refer yourself here, there. Or what do I do in the meantime?
Yeah.
You know, so some of the things that you said, and I'm sure that well, you've told me some of those things, so it's almost become habitual now.
Yeah.
The journaling, the voice noting, the challenging my thought systems, but I think they're really, really great tools for people to have in the interim period.
Sure. Sure.
When we speak, we've spoken a lot about my journey, from addiction, the trauma, the recovery. And of course, you're in recovery yourself, and this is something I don't think I've ever asked you before. What has been your biggest challenge in recovery, and how did you navigate that to ensure that you didn't sink, but you came out the other side a more evolved version of yourself?
Yeah. Great question again. For me, it's like me as a person. I'm a people pleaser. I want people around me. I want to be at parties. I want to be out. I want to be center of attention. I want to, in my addiction, that's what I was. I wanted to be that. That's when we talk about toxic as such, as we have, that was me. I wanted to be in that middle of the attention. I wanted to be there. I had people around me all the time. For me, the hardest part and the biggest difficulty was getting rid of close friends that I seen as close friends. So during my addiction side of things, I thought I had a lot of close friends. We had a group called CA, so Cocaine Anonymous, and there was loads of random people in this group. And people just message about partying or about going out.
Was that supposed to be a recovery group?
No. It was about...
That was the name you gave yourself?
It was the name that we gave ourselves, just so whoever wanted to go out partying.
Okay.
And you'd put something in the group. I've got a bag. I've got this. I've got that. But it was actually... I thought all of them people in that group were my closest friends.
Okay.
They were great people because we went out partying and we've met girls and we've done this and we've done that. We've done so much with these guys. Went on holiday and these guys, I thought these were my friends. But then slowly, the more I stopped doing the things and stopped partying and stopped going out and stayed at home more often, the more I started to realise that these people would distance themselves from me and I was distancing myself from them. Still give opportunities and chances, but every time that I'd go out with these individuals, I'd end up using again. So the more I kept doing that, the more I had to keep distancing myself. But losing friends for me that I thought were friends
was
very difficult. Yeah, it was. But now, 11 years, 12 years on, I look at that and say, well, actually, who do I have in my life now? I have friends that are consistent, that are present, that are there, that understand me and not like that anymore. They're not that influenced. Bear in mind, I have been out partying with these guys.
I was going to say, are these the same friends that were in your life
They
then?
were, but they were the ones that could stop.
Okay.
They were the ones that would go out the weekend and the week, midweek stop. I was carried on throughout the week. Well, these are the guys who could stop, but they're not like that anymore. Their lifestyle is different. The way we live is different. What we do is different. And that was so difficult at the beginning because I wanted to still be that ego-centered person. I was going in with my ego. But once letting that ego go, and once realizing what I do have is beautiful, and the life that I have right now, and one line can take it all away. One drunken moment can lose all of that. And I think back to that and I think, well, actually, what is worth it? I have a beautiful daughter, I have a nice house, the way I'm living is great, the situations I'm in is great, life at work is great, gym, fitness, the way I look after my health, the way I am, my relationships with my friends, the close people, like everybody, everything that I have in my life right now is what's been created by myself and leaving addiction, by leaving that life in the past and by leaving them friends that I thought were the most important things to me, the people to me. And that's what I found the hardest. But what happened after finding it the hardest, it became a blessing, because without leaving them, I wouldn't be where I am today. And I have a beautiful life right now.
Yeah. And I think a lot of people can resonate with that, actually. A lot of people can resonate with that. And I love the fact that it's almost, you get to a point of it being hard and then reflecting and being like, actually, you know, like you just said, literally, you know, it was hard, but I did that hard thing. And by doing that hard thing, this is, you know, this is what I've got and gained.
And that's a journey. That's it. That's a journey. And I think forever, like, it's in life, and I've said it quite a lot recently, things are either a lesson or they're a blessing.
Or both.
Yeah. But if every situation you walk away with, this is a lesson, and I grow from it and I learn from it and I realise and I become better from it, great. Something great happens to me and I have something beautiful opportunity happen. This is a great blessing. How do I take care of it? How do I nurture it? How do I let it grow?
I literally think you've just described recovery there.
Yeah.
And everything you've said, because that is recovery, and it's a continuous journey of reflection, of learning, of being blessed, you know, sacrificing for something greater.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And let's not get it twisted as well. Like, I've been out to parties, I've been out to places, I've been out in situations, and do I sometimes now think, oh, I'd love a line? I'm not lying. Sometimes I think that would be great. That would be amazing. I remember what it was like when we was partying and everything was wild and everything was great and things were amazing. Like, because that's what you sometimes look back at.
Is that the reminiscing part?
Potentially. But you look back at that and you think, this was great. I would love a line right now. But then you actually sit back and look deeper and realise, actually, I used to sit in a room on my own 4 days a week doing nothing but just getting a line, getting a drink, getting a line, and then going into work high and doing the same, and then having no money, not seeing my daughter, missing seeing her, not having the people that, not going on holiday because I couldn't afford it because I was spending no money in less city centres, Arbor. Like it was all of these things that you look back and you sometimes think, oh, I'd love one, I'd love a little line, a cheeky one. Then you actually think of all the other things that come with it. And then once you look back and you think, actually, no way is it worth losing what I have right now. And you think back and that thought of, oh, I'd love one, disappears straight away.
Is that an autopilot thing that you've done, actually?
Within time, it's more, because I look at what benefits, I look at the negatives. And the negatives way outline the benefits. So it just...
Yeah. And I think that's really helpful to a lot of people, because it's a technique that I was taught in rehab.
Yeah.
Is to have this image, like the worst image or situation that you can think of in addiction, and keep that firmly at the front of your mind. So if you're ever in a situation where you start romanticizing or, you know, thinking, I'll be all right with one, this kind of image pops up, and it's almost autopilot to the point where I don't even know it's happening now, much like you just described, where within seconds you kind of flitter from romanticizing to like, nah.
Not worth it.
No.
It's not worth it. And that's the advice I could give to anybody. Is like you will get them thoughts, and I think you do get them thoughts, you do get them ideas. It's within time they go. Like now, do I randomly get them thoughts like I used to 5 years ago, 8 years ago? No, not as much. They sort of fade away and they go. And it takes time for it to go. And you will have these thoughts, and it's okay. It's okay to have a thought of just a cheeky one, but it's what the action you take. It's the action you take and looking at the negatives and positives straight away. Actually, this was great, but this was really bad. This was really bad, and so on.
Yeah, no, I think that's great, and it's nice learning more about you in your journey. Actually,
Yeah,
it's something we don't touch on too often.
I sort of I like to leave. I'll talk a lot about past partying and doing this and doing that, but I do like to leave a lot of it in the past. I know a lot of people talk about their journey and things that they've done. I think I've hurt a lot of people. I know I've hurt a lot of people. And I don't want to say I want to leave that hurt in the past, but I reflect back and I know I've hurt a lot of people close to me. I've hurt myself as well. But I look back and I just think is that's what I've done and that's what I've done to hurt people. What I do today, what I do now, is what I do to help people. And I want to focus on the chapter of how I can help you, how I can help somebody else, how I can use my pain and the hurt that I caused on other people's life for one person to not cause hurt, not to get to do the similar, very similar to in your life, where I look at the work we did together. We did a lot of work together, and the actual fact, if I can see your life and see the actual fact that you're not hurting anybody anymore, like the hurt that you have caused, which is very similar to me in a sense, but you're not hurting anymore. You're not hurting other people anymore. You're not causing damage. And I find that part why I want to leave the journey where it is and what it is, because this is a new chapter, 11, 12 years in. And I've hurt a lot, and I think the people know who I've hurt, they know who they are. But yeah, it's just trying not to hurt anybody anymore.
And I think that's a really brave, actually, to speak about. But also, I think it's such a great point because our recovery journeys are so different. And the fact that recovery can be just as strong and sustainable and be different in the sense that I speak about my past often. And as I speak about it, I'm helping. I guess it's part of my, I don't want to say healing journey, because I feel like perhaps you're always healing, I don't know, but I'm always talking about it, so I'm always processing and getting out there alongside it, helping other people. But actually, recovery doesn't just look like this. Recovery can look like what you just described. For some people, it isn't about just keep talking about it, For others, it is about actually, that was me, and I did X, Y, and Z, because accountability is massive in recovery. But I can move forward without going back all the time.
Yeah.
And it's a really important point, because for some people, I think they just think that recovery looks like one thing. And it's so important that people recognize that there's multiple paths into recovery, as well as being multiple paths in sustaining recovery. And they don't have to look the same at all. As long as, when it comes down to it, we're all, evolving. Yeah. I don't want to use abstaining, but, not slipping back in our old ways and evolving.
Yeah. It's a new way of life. It's a new you.
Yeah.
I've said to you, like, ever since the day you come out of rehab, you turn 16 again.
Yeah.
It's like you've just turned 15, 16 again, and you're just learning about you. Like, you used drugs and you used alcohol. Alcohol was yours. You used...
I did do coke. I did, like, when I was drinking, I got to a point where all inhibitions went. Yeah. So although I wasn't addicted to cocaine, it was something that I did do if it was that. Yeah. Because there was no limits. Yeah. It was limitless.
Sure. And that's where it's like, let's see where we can change that sort of aspect of you were 16 again. You knew you come out into recovery, you come into the real world of 16. Same with me. Like, very similar. When I stopped using, everything was really new. I'm living a new life now. It was only a short period of my life I was bang at it. But when the hurt you cause and damage you cause, it takes you 5-6 years back. but it's learning about yourself again. And I learned about, like I say, the passing of my auntie, the passing of my mom, the passing of my grandma, all of the people that I lost, and they were the people that raised me. I was raised by my mum passed away. I was raised by my grandma. My auntie was living in the same house. My auntie passed away. I was raised like all, and then my grandma passed away. And it was just a lot of hurt and a lot of damage that was there, sitting there, a lot of grief.
Yeah.
And then once you sort of step out of that addiction, you realise that was a mask to cover a grief, to cover sort of.
There's a lot of grief.
Yeah,
It sounds like every single person that you had an emotional bond to, that you loved and loved you back, was ripped from you.
Yeah, and every single one of them was woman.
Yeah, yeah.
Every single one of them was woman. So it was that bond. I have a great relationship with women now. Some of the closest people in my life right now to me are women. And why? Because I feel protected. I feel safe.
Yeah.
So yeah, and you learn this, and without going through that, where do you learn it? And then that's what I talk about, having a lesson or a blessing. That lesson has now become the blessing. That lesson that I've learned from there, and taken the time to look at myself, to look deeper, to dig deeper. I've now found that actually these are all things in my life that I had, like where I was trying to run away from, and I had all that trauma. But actually, them people in my life were a blessing. Them people even leaving my life and passing on, like it was a blessing, because they were in hurt, they were in pain. But what I've taken away from it, they've now blessed me with everything they taught me.
Yeah.
Whatever they taught me, whatever they guided me through, I now teach that to the next generation, and they're going to naturally have these beautiful things about them that I've been taught by all them people that I've lost. My auntie, my grandma, these by losing them, they've taught me some wonderful things. I'm just going to pass that on now to my daughter and to my children, and we'll see. Like, hopefully that's the way it works. It just keeps coming around, and that's a lesson that's taken into a beautiful blessing of what we can see in the future.
Yeah, I think I've learnt that through grief. Like, on the one hand, you've lost a whole person, and that's massive. But the other side of it is they live through you, and you don't even sometimes you don't even realise how much of their traits you've taken on, and that you're expressing now, and that is a beautiful thing, because that's the legacy, that's their essence, literally intertwined into you, and like you said, you pass that on, and yeah, I love that concept. It almost is very comforting.
Yeah, and they'll pass it on too.
Yeah,
because they've naturally, it's engraved in them naturally. You don't even know, and the traits you have in you are passed on from people you've never met.
Yeah.
So your grandparents or your great grandparents taught your grandparents. Your grandparents then taught that to your parents, and your parents be able to taught that to you. And then naturally, you don't even know, because there's some little minute things throughout life and generational blessings, that little things are passed on. You've probably got something that your trait of your great grandma that you never know. You don't even know, but when you look back, you're probably, just like me.
Yeah, possibly,
So,
yeah. No, I agree. So one of the things that, I hear about, I guess I've pondered on, and I've pondered on more as I've got older, is this whole topic around, can sexual offenders be rehabilitated? And I guess it's a question that's played more and more in my mind recently, because I've been talking about my own sexual abuse, experience more and more, and I've had people reach out to me. And for a long, long time, I was like, no, if you're that way inclined, if that's the way that your neurology is, then there's nothing that can be done to rehabilitate you, But at the same time, I think it's a good question to ask, that can people who, sexually molest children or commit, rape or any sexual-based crime, can they be rehabilitated? Like, what are your thoughts on that? Because you can see that I'm almost like between two heads at the minute. But yeah, do you think, Dil?
So in the question of, can they be rehabilitated?
Yeah, do you think that people who commit sexual-based crimes, whether it be, children, rape, whatever, do you think that they can be rehabilitated? Because I know there's programs out there, but
Tough one.
Very tough.
I think so. If you asked me 2 years ago, before I started working with the Drive Partnership and working in perpetrators of domestic violence, that were men, I would have said no, they can't be rehabilitated. Where we're getting into a position where you asked me this question 2 years later, I think people can be rehabilitated.
Okay.
However, we've got to look at the factor of not that individual that can be rehabilitated. We've got to look at the factor that people have been harmed and people have been hurt, and we look at it in the impact and the eyes of them people, that people don't ever get hurt or harmed ever again. And that's outside of where I think they can. Am I saying can everybody? No. If you look at some of the data, some recent data, I think it came out that 29.9% of people after leaving prison for sexual offences will reoffend again within the first year.
Yeah.
So that shows that some people can't. And they're people that was in for shorter term sentences.
Okay.
And they were the people that was impacted, that would go out within a year and reoffend.
I've not seen this data actually. It's quite interesting.
So, yeah, I don't want to talk too much about data because I've not looked deeply enough, enough, and that was something that I seen a little while ago. But that fact of rehabilitation, it has to go on that individual. It has to go on taking accountability. It has to be focused on that person needs to take accountability for his behaviours or their behaviour. That person needs to focus on long-term sustainable change. What can life look like? What will life be like? What will your mindset be like? That person needs to also look at being, also that individual will be in the justice system if they have offended and they have been sentenced and they have been to prison. That person will have to be in the system and to be tracked. That support once you leave the prison system has to be there. I think in a sense of we'll never know the factual data, the actual correct information, because you might say they're reoffended, but we know reporting is underreported. Sexual offences are really underreported. So even though we're looking at 29%, is it more? Sometimes looking at data doesn't always give you the right answer. Sometimes it doesn't give you the right information that you want, because we know sexual offences are really underreported. The fact of really underreported, we know in the very case of yours, people go to court and don't get sentenced.
No.
There are predators that walk in the streets today that have been to court and walked away. And they've never had any interventions. They've not had any consequence. They've not had to take accountability. So there's thousands of people walking the streets like that today. And when I say yes, I think they can, I'm talking about the people that have had to focus and work and do a lot of work on themselves. And it's not all. So this is a really big question, because it seems like I'm one person to the other person so different. And that's why I'm trying to look at it in an individual basis. Can one person change or not offend again? Potentially. But then the other aspect of it is that people do reoffend. And every time somebody's reoffending, they're hurting and they're harming somebody, they're causing somebody grief, the trauma, they're ruining people's lives.
Yeah.
They're causing damage forever. The damage caused by one person who's a sexual offender in that rest of that individual's life is for life.
Yeah.
You don't use sexual abuse on somebody. You don't do that and think that other person's going to be fixed. That stays with them forever. And just because you feel like, just in a way where, okay, we're going to work with you, we're going to do the interventions, we're going to try to change your behaviour, we're going to try to do all of these things, we're going to take accountability, we're going to do all of this, and we spend hours and hours on this, an individual, that individual that's been harmed is going to hurt forever. And that will never replace that.
No.
And the only aspect of I'm looking at this at is that people are coming out of jail after offending. People are being sentenced and coming out. How do we keep people safe from these people? We know these people are going to come out to society again. How do we keep other people safe from these individuals, and can we?
That's hard, isn't it? Because I think the other thing I was going to ask you is, there is this whole argument that people who molest children have that's the way that they are, because even from, obviously I'm a scientist, and so from a scientific background, arousal is autonomic. It's something that's out of your control. So the argument that these people have who are attracted to children is that is the way they're born. When they look at children, that's what sets off that autonomic sexual arousal. I find it difficult to talk about it, because obviously I'm a child sexual abuse victim myself, but I'm trying to step out of that and ask these questions, because I think they're really important questions to ask. What do you think someone like that can be rehabilitated, where they're sort of and I know I'm not putting it on you, but it's just a conversation around thoughts, because on the one hand, I'm a child sexual abuse victim, and I everything you said, I've nearly destroyed myself to the point of near death. And the foundation of that was a child sexual abuse. It was just trauma built on trauma. But then from a scientific perspective, if arousal is autonomic, and their argument, do you know what I mean? It's just...
I'd love to be able to give an answer to that question and what you're saying. That I don't have an answer to that. I don't think I can answer that. I don't think it's ever possible to answer that. I think one of the very similar analogies that it's what you're saying, I heard an analogy, and it was a Louis Theroux documentary, and they were talking about sexual offenders. I think it was one of the jails, and somebody said on there, and that stuck with me forever, and it still does now. He goes, and it was one of the offenders that said, he goes, if you've been to jail, if you love vanilla ice cream, and you've loved vanilla ice cream all of your life, it's the best thing ever, you think it's great, you always go to it, that's a choice that you go for, that's your favourite part, you keep eating vanilla ice cream, and that's your favourite ice cream, and all of a sudden, somebody stops you from having it for 2 years, and then says, you can never have vanilla ice cream anymore. You're still going to enjoy it. You're still going to remember the taste of it. You're still going to like it. There's still going to be all these things. Oh, I love a little bit of vanilla ice cream. And then if you have vanilla ice cream again, what does it feel like?
It's really hard, because I know the analogy you're saying, and I'm thinking about it from my own experience. Yeah.
And that was a really strange analogy to put it, but it was an offender. It was, Louis Theroux went into the jails, talked to offenders. And one of the offenders actually said that. He goes, I've been in jail. He goes, but you're going to tell me, go outside and tell me I can't have vanilla ice cream again? And I like vanilla ice cream. And it's my favourite. And it just, that sort of was like, wow. Wow. But that's one individual.
Yeah.
And that's why it's the question that you first would ask is really difficult, because it has to go on an individual basis, and one individual to another.
Absolutely. And it is a hard topic to discuss as well. But it's good to talk about these things, Jess, and just,
Yeah, and it's a topic that lots of people can talk about and have different views. And there is, it's when we're looking at data, when we're looking at offences, when we're looking at lives ruined, when we're looking at people harmed, there's a lot of different particles of this. It isn't just one side. It isn't just this individual that has harmed, because there's a lot of impact. The families have been impacted. There's a lot of people impacted from the one individual.
And I think the other thing is that a lot of those individuals, not all of them, but will have been abuse victims themselves. And this is another thing I really struggled with, because you've been sexually abused as a child, you go on to sexually abuse, because I'm like, absolutely not, that cannot happen. As a child sexually abuse victim myself, I would never dream of it. But then there is this whole psychology behind it, and Yeah, it is very deep. Yeah.
And that's very similar to like, oh, my parents are we're addicted to drugs or addicted to alcohol, so
Yeah.
I become addicted to alcohol, I become addicted to drugs. But people also go the opposite way round.
Yeah.
So people that have been, their parents may have been addicts or in addiction. Then what happens is they've seen that and they sort of say, no, this is wrong. This is not what I want to be like. This is not how I want to live. This isn't the lifestyle I want to live. So it's very, and I keep going back to this. The question in this topic is very individual based.
Yeah.
You have to look at it through a lens of each individual person, and very similar to the domestic violence work that I was doing. It was a 20-week course, and we were working with men that were perpetrators of domestic violence and heinous crimes. A lot of
How did you
heinous
find
crimes.
that?
It was difficult because we were working in groups, talking to multiple men, and talking about knowing what they've done, the crimes that they've committed, knowing that they've been in a relationship, knowing that they've hurt, knowing that they've harmed, knowing that they've damaged people's lives, children's lives, their partners' lives, and knowing that. But when we was doing the 20-week course, you could see some change in behaviour. And I think what happened is in this sort of lifestyle, it was very like, oh, the men are horrible, the men are disgusting, the men are criminals, the men should rot in jail, etc., etc. A lot of people would say that. But what evidence showcased in domestic violence is that these men will often perpetrate again. And these men, when they was perpetrating, I'm talking about men against women because they were the people I worked with. When these men will be perpetrators again, it's another victim, it's another survivor that gets hurt. So we have to look at it through the lens of the victim and survivors. We should never look at working with these individuals as at the lens of the individual.
Yeah.
It has to be, if we can stop this person from harming again, then we can look at the eyes of a lens of the women and children. They're not going to harm again, or they won't harm again, or they'll save, and you're saving lives in the other aspects. Because if we sort of just let them rottle and don't care about these men and leave them be and they deserve to go in jail, yes, they've probably done that, but they're going to come back out again and reoffend. So it's that aspect of how do you work with, or how do you educate these individuals so we can keep women and children safe.
Yeah.
And that was a big change in a lot of the domestic violence work that I started doing, is that if we do work around men, changing their behaviours and looking at how they can learn, do we save somebody else on the other side?
Yeah. I agree, it would be on an individual basis. And the topics are so different as well.
Yeah.
The crimes are so heinous, but they're heinous in two different spectrums.
But that's crimes as a spectrum, isn't it?
Yeah.
If you're working with somebody who's a burglar, how they've impacted somebody's life. If you work with them while they're inside and you stop them from doing it again, they've not impacted somebody's life again.
Yeah.
And you've got to always look, I think, with crime aspects, and when things like this are happening, is the lens of the victims and survivors. You look at the lens of the victims and survivors and you think, okay, how do we stop this individual from committing a crime again?
Yeah.
More victims, more survivors, or more people are just safe.
And educating communities, because I think it's a big normalised hidden harm in many communities as well.
Sure.
And has been for a long time. That's interesting.